The Washington, D.C. region SCCA enters its penultimate round tonight at Silverstone Circuit in the UK. For most of the season, we've run TCR and MX-5 machinery, but on occasion, we've run GT3 and Porsche Cup equipment on some international circuits. Tonight, it's time to head to Silverstone, the historic GP circuit, for the next round of the championship. Although this one not for points tonight, Finian. This racetrack is famous, it's very fun to drive, it's very fast and flowing on this historic layout. Your thoughts and expectations heading into tonight's 60-minute endurance race?
Yeah, it should be a very interesting race to watch. Of course, being 60 minutes in an endurance race, and we saw, all things considered, Road America was interesting. With the way guys play the fuel strategy, or I guess lack thereof, and guys just running out of fuel to the line. We didn't know who was going to win the race. So, I think these guys probably learned from that. I'm sure a few of them did, to make sure they properly fuel the car this time to make it to the end of this race. But yeah, it should be interesting to see mostly the Mercedes and the GT3 class. I mentioned they're probably going to be on top. And then obviously the Porsche 911s, they're pretty strong fuel and pretty competitive fuel, to say the least.
So qualifying is underway and almost complete, and we have to bring your attention to the left-hand side of the screen, the ticker tonight. The session was not configured quite right, so what that meant is that the GT3 cars are all entered as their own class, and unfortunately there's not a way around it that I can do in any reasonable amount of time. So you're just going to have to go by the order that they are in the ticker, and you can't necessarily trust that number that's next to them. So we have 12 drivers that are in GT3 tonight. Of course, you're going to see how it's kind of disorganized there, and the positions are done by car. And unfortunately, there's no way to tell, who's really in what position other than looking at where they are in that lineup there. So we apologize for that, but nothing I can do about it, unfortunately. The Porsche Cup cars, however, their stuff is working just fine. So DJ Alessandrini, House-Seal, and the rest of that grid will show up just fine at the bottom of your ticker. So tonight's event, Vinny, in 60 minutes, there's going to be a pit stop required for both classes of cars. And you mentioned a lot of drivers running out of fuel last time. Is there a learning experience to be taken away from that heading into tonight?
I hope so. I hope they didn't go to the Dave Fitzgerald school of fueling. And they learn from their mistakes, and they will fuel enough this time. And, there's always the thing, you don't want to add too much fuel, because A, you make the car slightly heavier. It also takes, more importantly, takes more time on pit road. So everyone's trying to cut it to take as little fuel as possible. But, you never know when you just take too little, and especially if you don't do the math right. You always want to give yourself just a little bit of leeway, just in case the fuel's burning faster than you think, or just in case if you just didn't put the right numbers in.
So David Alessi in the number 34 is at the top of the board in qualifying for GT3 right now. Mark Labens in the number 14 car sits 5th, and Sly Stafford is in 6th. Labens just jumped up to 4th spot in his machine. So, but in Porsche Cup, DJ Alessandrini and Ken House-Seal, the two typical drivers at the top of the grid. That's pretty much the drivers you're going to have to beat tonight, but I'm pretty impressed with Thomas Layton's time. He ran 3rd, only 57 thousandths off of House-Seal, so maybe Layton has got something, a relatively new driver here tonight.
Yeah, and again, he's competing against some of the best that we've seen on some TV in the road course cars. Alessandrini, House-Seal, Darling, Lapras in the mix as well. Those guys are at the top of the game, and he's pretty much joined them at the top, so we'll see if he can improve. He's only a few hundredths off of Ken House-Seal's time in qualifying.
Yeah, Paul Darling sits in 4th, behind Layton by about a 1/10.5 of a second. And Paul Darling, again, has won last year, or actually earlier in this year, the SCCA SRF competition that they held on the iRacing Motorsport Simulation Service, so we know Paul's really good. Had some bad luck at the start of the Road America race the last time he was out in this car, so hoping for a bit better luck tonight. All the GT3 cars, sans Dennis Barrett, have already come in, and they're done with their qualifying efforts. Barrett's going to come across the line. He is currently 8th overall as he comes on through, and what will he end up? Looks like he will not advance his position. It was a 43.5, which is 3 seconds off of his best pace. He's going to get another chance to run a little. Actually, I don't know if he'll get another chance. The checkered flag has already flown, so he should be starting 8th overall. Darling's still the only other car out on track. And on the brakes, bit of a wheel drop in the dirt underneath the bridge. And I think one of the important things about this circuit, this variation of it, the historic GP circuit, is how much more flowing it is than the international track, which means you're carrying a lot more speed around here.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it right now. I really don't like this version of Silverstone. I prefer the newer one, but to each their own. I do like this historic version more, as you're saying, than the actual GP version.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the new Silverstone is markedly better in a bunch of different ways, but when compared to the other layouts, I think the historic GP is the best of the worst at this particular version of the racetrack. So again, this is not the new Silverstone. Of course, iRacing has two versions, one really pre-2010, and the other version 2012 and newer. That's the version that we prefer, but this one, of course, is free to all iRacing members, and that's the one we'll be using tonight. So, heading down to the racetrack here, 60 minutes on the board as we get ready to go racing. We'll roll through our starting lineup here in just a moment, but also take a look at our track conditions tonight. Right now it looks out there, 71 in the air, 96 on the racetrack, so not super hot conditions, but not necessarily cold either.
Yeah, and we'll see if the track does vary a little bit, although it didn't seem to really have too much of an effect in the Road America race, so we'll see if there is any change here. That'll throw these guys for a loop.
But looking down at the pole sitter, David Alessi, still got a big pace lap to take care of as well. But I guess, Finney, let's roll through the starting lineup. On the front row, it'll be David Alessi in his number 34. He's been really good in top-class competition. He'll roll off first tonight. Sam Scott rolls off in second on the outside of that first row.
Yeah, then moving on back, it'll be Francois Breu and Mark Lavins lining up fourth and fifth.
Third and fourth. That's row number 2 there. Fifth.
It's different on my.
Yeah. Fifth and sixth will be... Oh, you're right. This is weird. This is all borked up. Again, there's not those scrolling along the bottom of the screen. We're going to confuse ourselves. And once again, if you just joined us, the reason why some of the positions are a little bit off is because the session was configured to have each car as its own class, and the changes to make it our ticker and our graphics overall standings, not enough time to make that adjustment. Unfortunately. So we have to roll with how far up they are on the left-hand side of the ticker, which is good because it's a nice visual aid, but just keep in mind that the number isn't necessarily going to mean a whole lot. Porsche Cup numbers are working just fine because they're all in the same car tonight.
Yeah, and actually, looking at the order, it looks like Lewis Alessi actually benefited from that. Being in a BMW, he actually got put ahead of all the Mercedes cars.
Well, that is real convenient, but it's also going to be very exciting to watch. I think as they're going to have struggle necessarily on that first lap when everyone's, the speed differential is how you do the qualifying. So if Alessi qualified at the back and now he's starting up front, this could get interesting. All right, pace car's rolling off. Take one last look at our track map tonight. 3.1 miles around here, Finian, and of course Baggett's and Beckett's. That's that S's complex at the top of the graphic, and you're using all the racetrack here, every inch of curbing, every inch of runoff, but there's other places where that grass can get you.
Yeah, and you want to be careful, especially because again, like we keep talking about the new and the older version, but the newer version of this track, they've taken away a lot of the grass by the track, but replaced with a lot of concrete, which means you can run pretty far off the track and not have to worry about a whole lot. Here, there still is a lot of grass right up next to the racing surface, so if you dip a wheel out, especially more so in the Porsche 911, I think than the GT3 machinery, you're gonna definitely find yourself almost spinning out, if not actually spinning out.
So the last time we were out at Road America, that was kind of more of a point and shoot sort of racetrack. This track uses a lot more downforce in these cars. So we look at the front, we see a lot of Mercedes up there, but which car do you think really has the advantage? Do you think it's just the talent pool that's in the Mercedes, or do you think maybe there's another car in here, maybe the Ferraris, that might be a little bit quicker?
I think from what I've been from at least what qualifying is saying, I think it's pretty much going to be to the Mercedes. The fastest non-Mercedes car in a 139.5 to the pole time from David Alessi in a Mercedes, what should have been the pole time, a 138.1. So unless they can pick up some pace, I think is going to be going down to the Mercedes, especially on some of these fairly long straightaways.
Yeah, they're outnumbered for sure, and I think a lot of people like the Mercedes because of how stable it is through the corners. It's the traditional front-end rear-wheel drive layout as opposed to the mid-engine layout offered by the Ferrari. The BMW, as of lately, it's actually gotten BOP'd quite favorably in the last couple builds here in iRacing, so that car with Lewis Alessi behind the wheel might actually do all right. I still think the Mercedes is probably a safe bet. There's not a lot of Ferrari fans out there in these cars, and I think part of that is because to be fast in it requires you to be so perfect, and you have to drive it super loose too, which is kind of scary for some people, especially on corner entry. Requires a lot of trail braking. Yeah,
one thing I'm actually surprised about seeing is the fact that there's 0 Audis, and this is even too at Road America, because if you look at the Pro Series and some of the higher tier series, there are quite a few Audis, and I think it actually is one of the better cars, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think the Audi in particular is a little bit unstable at high speeds, and especially over bumps. And now this track is a little bit bumpy. It's certainly not doesn't have to deal with all the high curbs that a lot of the other tracks have. But the Audi seems to not be a favorable choice by very many people. I actually don't even know if it was set up to be in this session, to be totally honest with you.
No, it was.
Oh, it was. Okay, so it was an option. Nobody just took it. Interesting. So heading under the bridge and coming back around to complete our pace lap now, it's going to be David Alessi on pole at Porsche 911 Cup. Pace car is going to roll off here shortly. One little part of the sector left to go. 60 minutes. A lot to be concerned with here. Don't push the issue early. Especially, this track is very flat. Not a lot of elevation. Not a lot of ways to get your tires warm. So when you start this race, you're going to have to be a little bit careful. Get your tires up to temp before you really start to push this car. Rolling through the final corner. Waiting for the green flag to fly as the pace car pulls off into pit lane. It's David Alessi in the orange Mercedes on pole position tonight. Green flag flies and we're racing at Silverstone. GT3s are up and away, and it's Lewis Alessi in the BMW that pulls out in front, and David's under attack from the 98 of Sam Scott in that yellow and black Mercedes GT3.
Yeah, and they're both David Alessi and Sam Scott racing side by side down into Megas and Beckett's through the first time. It's going to be.
Oh no, Alessi's gone!
No.
Slip and slide off the course as we head to the Porsche Cup start, and immediately Thomas Layton throws his car to the left to block Ken Halseal down into one, and he's going to make that spot stick, and I think Halseal had Paul Darling all over him as they exit the first turn.
Yeah, Darling now going to be side by side with Halseal, and they're going to race off into Megas and Beckett's. It looks like Darling's going to back up, give Halseal back, and Halseal try to charge up the inside of Layton. He wants second place back.
And of course, the Porsche Cup car, one of the cars on the new tire model, which means that it takes a couple laps to come up to temperature here. So you're kind of driving on ice skates for the first few laps. You see Layton struggling. He's got Halseal and Darling all over his rear bumper, and that aggressive start now has a bunch of drivers hounding him in the mirror. Behind that, Talas Sadiq under attack from Christopher Lapras in the 04, who ran the Grid Life iRacers event in the Mustangs at Road Atlanta last night. Bit of a different car, a little bit more nimble up in front. DJ's under attack from Layton. It's getting wild.
It's getting wild also in the GT3 class as Lewis Alessi's trying to defend from Sam Scott, who's all over him. And I'm surprised that actually Lewis Alessi's been able to defend this entire lap from Scott, but Scott's starting to get on him.
Behind Mark Lavins goes way wide, and he'll pull it back on course just in time. DJ Alessandrini, though, Thomas Layton is putting some pressure. Halseal's off in the dirt on the back straightaway. He's gotten it back on, but he's going to maybe lose another spot to Lapras. But Layton's pushing DJ Alessandrini. That's a hard guy to push, too.
Yeah, Halseal got loose out of club, and they just sent him flying off into the dirt. So he's lost a lot of time that he's got to make up now. And Layton looking like he has a chance of winning this race.
Yeah, he's really fast and putting the pressure on the leader. Paul Darling is slotted in third. Halseal all the way back to sixth spot. Going to try to grab fifth from Sadiq. And side by side into the final corner. It's real tight here. Maybe a bit of side-to-side contact. No, they'll stay clean here. Someone's got to tell these guys that was just lap one.
I think we might see a pass for the lead here. Sam Scott got a really good run on Lewis Alessi. Alessi going out to the left side, leaving the inside open for Sam Scott. I think he admitted defeat, and indeed he does. Sam
Scott down the inside will take the lead away in GT3, and Scott's an incredibly talented race car driver that just hasn't had the greatest of luck on the iRacing side lately, so good to see him quick here early. Francois Bruce slots into third. Where are the drivers? David Alessi started on the front row all the way back, dead last in class. No damage to that car, but a lot of ground to make up in his class at the moment.
Yeah, that was after his incident that sent him off the track and towards the back of the field, and again, hours a long time, so he still has a chance to make up a lot of those positions.
Sly Stafford, that was Travis Steele and Charles Boley. They almost got together. Boley was off in the dirt there for a moment. Meanwhile, checking back in on Porsche Cup, DJ's pulled away now, and Layton's under attack from Paul Darling. Paul's going to try to cross him up into the next corner.
Yeah, and Darling had a look to the inside of him in Stowe, wasn't able to get it done. He's going to follow him through in club, and now they're starting to lose some time. Oh, and actually, Layton's going out wide, and Darling going to take advantage.
Yeah, Shane Daggett was around. David Alessi spun out again. But battle for second in class. Paul Darling's got the Porsche Cup second place. Lots going on at the moment, and Darling through. Halseal still in fifth, hasn't been able to gain any more spots. Second place now under attack. That's Lewis Alessi and Francois Brou contesting this spot.
Oh, there's a Mercedes off spinning in the background. It's Lex Kershak.
Let's see what happened to Lex here. This was down in, I believe, in turn one. And drives in a little bit deep, maybe. Going to get on the curb. Maybe could have caught some grass. Just unstable there. Maybe running a lower downforce setup. This is open set. Already had some damage on the right front. Added some more to the left front. So Not the direction Lex Kurchek wanted to be. He's now dead last in class. Travis Skeel, Charles Boley there, nose to tail. Now this is for 7th.
Yeah, Boley currently...
Oh, he's out of control. There he goes. This is going to hurt. Bam! Into the fence. And again, we talked about how unstable the Ferrari can be at speed, how loose you have to drive it, and that caught out Boley, and that's going to be a big repair to that car.
And he was trying to move up the order with Sly Stafford. Stafford currently 7th overall.
So 2nd place in GT3 is Brew closing in on Lewis Alessi. And again, I think we're going to see the Mercedes versus BMW power now as they work their way through the final corner.
Yeah, this is really where the Mercedes love to shine. A massive engine underneath that hood and really takes advantage of it on these straightaways. This is why I think this is one of the better cars out of this class.
It's got more torque than a cruise ship. It just gets up and goes at the exit of every corner. It squats on down on that rear suspension and just takes off. The BMW, a bit more finesse required to drive that car, but still a V8 front-wheel drive or front-engine rear-wheel drive platform. I think the Mercedes is just the BMW, but more. I think a bit more downforce in that BMW, though.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of the other Mercedes. They're hitting 150 by the end of the front straightaway to the BMW's 148.
Wow, so big enough difference. And maybe some
Yeah.
setup involved there as well, but clearly I think the Mercedes seems to be the car of choice. So the Lewis Alessi hanging on quite well 2nd in class.
He really benefited from being put in first. I thought he would have dropped down the order faster due to his qualifying time, but he's got enough picks to at least hang around here.
Christopher Lapras has 4th in Porsche Cup. Ken Ausiel all over him, though. And remember, Ken went wide. We didn't actually see what prompted him to run out wide. I can only imagine there was some contact with he and Leighton.
No, actually, there wasn't any contact. He just got wide out of club and caught some curving. I think actually he was loose before he entered the corner, and this guy was loose through the corner and just went off into the grass.
Yeah, rare mistake for Ausiel. But again, he also made his mistake on lap 1 at Road America, so maybe the cold tires not working out for Ausiel in this car. It's only really been made worse by the most recent update, making these cars a bit more skittish when the first lap rolls around. Meanwhile, Ausiel now has closed the gap to Lapras. He's going to have a great look down into the next corner. Lapras goes defensive. Into Stowe.
Still racing on down there, and it looks like Lapras is going to back out.
Yeah, he'll back out of that and let Ausiel have it. Meanwhile, for 2nd in GT3, still Alessi has the spot, but Brew is a little bit quicker. And Dennis Barrett also showing face here. Well, I think Alessi was out way wide at the final corner. He's going to give Brew a good run.
Yeah, don't think quite close enough. He's making up that time on these straightaways, but once he gets through the corner, I think that's where the BMW starts to shine, especially through sections like Maggots and Beckett.
So I also have to bring our attention, I'm not going to pull away just yet because the battle isn't that close, but Paul Darling has actually reeled in DJ Alessandrini. He had a 1.8 second lead. Now it was down to as low as 0.6 of a second. Now it's back up to 1.1. So keep an eye on that 155, see if he can catch DJ. Barrett pushing hard to get up to Francois Brew here, though.
This is his best shot while he's held up by Lewis Alessi. He can try to potentially pass Brew.
Yeah, Sly Stafford's gone around. We'll take a quick look at how this happened. And again, Ferrari's so unstable at high speed, he might have just got a bit too much curb, and yep. It's so hard to catch this car once it gets sideways, and Stafford just lost it.
Yeah, a lot of the weight transfer on the back. You gotta be careful about it. Unfortunately, cut Stafford out. Luckily, he didn't get any damage.
Yeah, Brew's got Barrett rather, and Mark Labbins has also caught this group, so it's a 4-way battle for 2nd in class in GT3.
Meanwhile, Sam Scott's loving this because he's driven off into the distance with a 2.32, almost 3-second lead now.
Dab on the brakes through the fast right-hander, leading into the final sector. And it's the BMW followed by a trio of Mercedes. And Alessi was real tight. Lost a bunch of ground in that corner.
And he's really using up all the corner, all of the track space in some of these cars. You can see him running way out wide.
Yeah.
Well,
that might have been a bit too much. Got some grass on exit, and here comes Brew down the inside. I think Alessi's going to let that one go. All the way out to the rumble strips, and Barrett now sees an open door. Gonna tuck in line. Turn 1 is a very tricky place to pass without forcing someone out wide.
Oh, here comes Alessi. He's trying to bounce back on Brew with a run out of turn 1.
He's close, and again, this is where the BMW seems to excel, is these high downforce sectors. And the Mercedes a lot better coming out of slow corners, especially with all that torque.
And that being said, though, I don't know about Alessi. I think he's running a low downforce setup or something because he's really struggling through these corners in comparison to the Mercedes.
Yeah, sometimes when you race cars like this, it's better to just appeal to what the car is good at. And in this case, I would have probably gone with a higher downforce set if I was Lewis and Leslie. Use the car's strengths to your advantage. You know, if you're going to run a low downforce set on a BMW, you're just kind of negating the benefit that it has over every other car. So I'm not sure I agree with the setup decision on this 43.
Especially because Silverstone in a lot of corners is pretty high downforce, and especially even more so on this layout without the chicanes.
Yeah, but it does seem, though, like there is such long straights that perhaps he tested it and found that it was still slower overall, but he's getting eaten alive by the Mercedes either way. And Barrett's still pushing it. They haven't managed to get around him yet, though only one has. But he just seems like he's struggling to get that car rotated. Oh, he's way
slipping
sideways. Big drift.
And now Barrett is licking his chops as he's trying to build up a run down the front straightaway here.
Yeah, it's like a shark that smells blood in the water. Although, Leslie pulled away pretty nicely on that corner exit. Might have held his spot for now. We're going to quickly jump back to Porsche Cup because you see Paul Darling hounding DJ Alessandrini. And last time by, Darling was a 10th quicker. So this might not be a cut and dry DJ Alessandrini win like we're used to seeing in this class.
Yeah, and actually it was closer, more closer, actually 0.2 of a second. So he's building some pretty decent pace over Alessandrini, so we couldn't have a fight on our hands here.
All depends on how much the tires are being saved on either of these cars as well, so you have to keep an eye on that. So with that in mind, we are going to jump back quickly to 7th in, or make that 8th rather, in overall. That's Lex Kurchek and Sly Stafford trading spots. Both these cars have had issues tonight.
And they're just trying to make their way back up the order as much as they can.
And the only car behind them is Shane Daggett in the number 8 car. Or number 1 car, rather, back in 10th. Darling again, 0.2 quicker that time. I don't know, maybe is DJ pushing too hard, or maybe Darling is the one that's pushing too much.
I mean, it could be. These guys do have to make a pit stop halfway through, so I don't think it's that questionable to go hard for that long.
Well, so I guess is the question, I mean, do you take tires on this stop, or do you think you just take fuel and go?
That is a good question. I completely forgot about that. I'm thinking in terms of a stock car, a quick tire change there, yeah.
Well, because in a Porsche Cup car, I mean, we don't pit these things very much, at least not for tires. Yeah. So, and the other thing is you're going to lose time on cold tires with this tire as well. So I'm not really sure if taking tires is a good strategy or a bad one, but I think we're going to find out.
Yeah, well, I imagine some of these guys dabbled with that and potentially tested it out, especially at least testing, how long does it take for fuel and tires and vice versa.
Well, I think the other thing to consider is that the tire that iRacing uses for the roadside does not degrade nearly as much as it does on the oval side. We've seen the K&N car go down to 10% even lower, and that's what blows the tires out. You will not see that unless you're completely and entirely abusing your stuff here. But these guys are pretty careful about how they put their race cars around this racetrack. So I don't think we're going to see degradation be an enormous issue, but I do think you can overheat them pretty easily.
Yeah, I think the overheating is going to be a bigger factor of anything, especially if you're pushing hard like a guy with a guy like Paul Darling. But it's working out for him so far. He's gained a lot of time through the second to last corner of the track on Alessandrini. He's setting up the section beautifully.
Yeah, he's gained a lot of his time in the last and first sector. The middle sector, it seems like DJ is a touch better. About almost 15 minutes into this one, so almost a quarter of the way through, and Sam Scott and DJ Alessandrini have led a bunch of laps in their class so far. I don't think DJ's been taken off the top spot since the start of the race. Darling now setting up. For Maggots and Beckett's up on top of the curbs and being a bit more aggressive with these. You see DJ struggling with the transitions. If you watch his car, the way it swung from left to right, it seemed like it was leaning over a lot. Maybe a bit softer potentially, but it seems like that car's either getting thrown around a little bit too violently or the setup is not allowing it to change direction as efficiently as DJ probably wants it to.
And we'll see if maybe he has this setup more for the long term. Maybe, the overheating is going to bite Paul Darling later in the run, but it's, I guess, a little bit too early to tell for that.
And no other changes in GT3. We're going to keep our eyes on the Porsche Cup lead. And throttling out of the corner. And Paul loses all his time through this middle part, and he's been slowly gaining. Again, it's about the 2/10 a lap, and he's chopped this lead in about a third of what it used to be.
Actually, looking back at GT3, you might want to check real quick. David Alessi's caught back up to the leaders pretty much.
Oh, yeah. So that's all the way up to third in class. You see in the shot right there. And Alessi, remember, he spun out on the opening lap and put himself way towards the back. He's going to take a look to the inside of Mark Labens. He's going to easily get that spot up the road. You see Lewis Alessi and Dennis Barrett. And both those guys have been fighting hard for a long time. And maybe Alessi holding up Barrett slightly, and that's going to bring David into the fight.
Yeah, and even looking at the leaders last times too, looks like Francois Brou is reeling in Sam Scott. He was second and 1.2 seconds faster last time by.
See how far off the racetrack Lewis Alessi was? Let's go back and take a quick look at that. How crazy wide he went on the exit of the corner, just trying to use all the available space.
Yeah,
four wheels off
that car looks really tough and miserable to drive right now at the moment. He's really struggling with getting through some of these corners.
Yeah, I mean, a good race car driver will always use all the track that's available. When you're 4 tires off in the runoff, maybe that's a bit too much. So he seems like he's struggling a bit.
David Alessi.
Yep, and Alessi's going to try to go the long way around, maybe late apex this. Oh, he's just going to go the long way around. Not going to work, though. No grip out there in that second groove.
Yeah. It's a really hard corner to late apex. The apex is everywhere and nowhere in that corner.
Alessandrini and Darling, only 2/10 separate them. We'll take you back there if they fight. We're going to keep our eyes on David Alessi, though, for now.
Yeah, this is an amazing recovery. I mean, honestly, if you can keep this pace up, considering he tracked down everyone else.
Oh, wow. Dennis Barrett was sideways when he got up over the top of the curb. And David Alessi backed off. You see Barrett run a little bit wide. This is going to give Alessi a great run down towards Stowe.
Yeah, and Barrett messing up that corner that messed up the entire section for him, and that allowed Alessi to get a nice run down towards Stowe. Not as much as I would have thought, but he's going to have a look here. What does Barrett do?
Try to outbrake him. He's going to throw it in deep. Is he going to be able to make the corner now? Oh, expert move. And Alessi's on through to fourth.
Wow, beautiful pass there.
That was textbook. Now he's got to deal with Lewis Alessi. And these were the drivers that started on the front row tonight. Cars up front, the top two still are running quicker laps. But once Alessi gets clear of traffic, he might be dangerous to those front runners.
Speaking of traffic, it looks like the GT3 leaders are starting to close in on the Porsche 911s. Most of that field's through turns 1 and 2, while the GT3 leaders coming to the final few corners.
Quarter of this race complete. David Alessi putting all sorts of pressure on Lewis Alessi in third. And again, the lead in Porsche Cup, only 2/10 of a second. To briefly take you there, because Paul Darling is right behind in the slipstream. And you have to imagine he's going to take the opportunity to make a pass. Here he comes.
He's going to have a look up the inside of Stowe. They're going to be side by side through this section here. This is going to get interesting.
Side by side. It's not often you see a driver out-drive DJ Alessandrini. Whoa, bit of dicey there. That pushed Darling way offline. And he'll have to spend a lot of time making that back up. Alessi still nose to tail, though. And Lewis has been doing a spectacular job driving defensively. And again, using that off-track, using the runoff to maintain his position is working out quite well.
And here we go, Alessi versus Alessi. One on a BMW, one on a Mercedes.
Oh, way deep on the brakes, and he's out. Can he save it? Here comes Barrett. Oh, they make contact and Alessi spins. And perhaps got spooked there. Just drove way up the outside and...
Yeah, I think what the problem was, I think both of them have completely different braking zones, both with the setup and the car.
Yeah, and David tried to slide up the outside and almost made it stick. Got in the grass of the left rear. You see Dennis Barrett kind of tap with his left front there. And for Alessi, that pretty much took the chances of his win away, but he could certainly fight for a top 5 in class. He currently sits 6th.
Yeah, it's unfortunate he made all that time up just to have that happen to him.
Back up to Porsche Cup, though. Paul Darling right back on pace, a 10th quicker than DJ. This is going to be rattling Alessandrini a little bit. It's not often you see someone go up there and just outdrive him, and that seems like what's happening right now. Certainly pushing DJ past his normal pace. We haven't seen him make a mistake yet, though, and I think that's when you know that he's a little bit concerned about the speed of the second-place car.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be key, too, seeing if he makes a mistake. Obviously, it's rare for him to do so, but, you know, anything can happen in racing.
Ken Ausiel and Thomas Layton are nose to tail as well. Remember, these guys fought hard on the opening lap, and I don't think either one of these guys is going to give each other a break. Layton's been doing a spectacular job. I think it's his first Is this his first event here? I'm fairly certain it is. Might be his second or third. Sideways, though.
Whoa. Yeah, almost in front, got tangled with Ken House-Hill trying to build up a run. Ooh, Leighton throwing a block.
Yeah, a little bit of a cheeky move there to get in front of House-Hill. And Ken gonna swing to the driver's left and try to go the long way around. This is gonna get dicey.
Whoa. Man, these cars look really unstable.
They're hard things to slide around. They don't like to drift very well, so if you get sideways, it's sometimes a death sentence in this car. Throttling back up, then down to the slow final corner. 40 minutes left here at Silverstone Circuit for the penultimate race of the Washington, D.C. Region SCCA iRacing League fall season. And down into turn 1. Go Leighton and House-Hill. Closest battle on the racetrack right now. We'll keep you here.
Curious to see if House-Hill can try to build up a run out of Beckett and down towards Stowe. I think that's probably one of his best shots.
Yeah, that's been where he's been better than Leighton the past couple laps. Got an okay run, but I don't think it's going to be enough to necessarily have a look at Leighton. Leighton's going to go defensive, though, trying to break the slipstream, weaving back and forth. And Ken closes, but look how much deeper on the brakes House-Hill can get here. Closes in a couple car lengths.
It's a very nice run through Stowe, not enough to do anything before club. And we saw them both get very close to each other out of these few corners.
Now, Leighton put himself in a bad position there on corner entry. Had to swing out. He got a late apex, which should help him down this short straight, but House-Hill's still a big gain through that sector.
Not a lot. Here they go around 2 through the same section of track. House-Hill's going to build up a run down towards Bridge.
Oh, that's a risky spot. He's going to back out of it. It's a smart move. This is such a difficult sector to pass in cars like this that lock so easily on the brakes. And Leighton in third. Ken House-Hill in the red and blue car. That car sits fourth. That's the Brumos Porsche livery.
And actually got a lapped 911 in front of them. It's David Atkinson.
Back onto the front straightaway. And I wonder how they'll navigate Atkinson here. We'll ride on board with House-Hill. Oh, Atkinson right in front of Leighton. And nowhere for Leighton to go through Maggots and Beckett's. That's going to let House-Hill swing to driver's left. Now cross over to the right. Atkinson in the way. Here comes House-Hill for third in class. Gets held up, though, on exit.
I was going to say, held up both of them, and House-Hill I think that definitely helped him out a lot more. He's all behind Leighton now, going to build up a run.
Into the braking zone. Leighton has to give way, but dives in really deep. He's going to overdrive this. Here comes House-Hill and should be able to complete this pass easily, and does. Bit of a bobble on the brakes for the 23, but he should be free and clear now. I don't know if Leighton has enough pace to respond to this.
Now, Leighton might have enough to maybe stick with House-Hill, but if anything, yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to make another attack for a while, at least.
So House-Hill free and clear after the dramatic moment. Meanwhile, Lex Kuracek, David Alessi, Dennis Barrett trading spots here. I wonder if Barrett had a slowdown. He was awful slow down the straightaway. Let's take a look. Oh, he was just off track. He was way off exiting Maggots and Beckett's and slipped big time, got in the gravel, and just kept it off the fence, so he lost a bunch of spots with that. Now it's to chase down David Alessi, who's working over Lex Kuracek. Both those drivers way off course as they try to get themselves inside the top 5. Lex Kuracek has it, and David Alessi wants it.
Yeah, the second time for Alessi trying to get up through the field.
Lap down Porsche, that's Calvin Wong and the Hertz number 100. Alessi has to kind of pinch off the car on exit to get by. Barrett will follow through.
And Francois Brou also navigating some lap traffic, some 911 traffic.
That is the 45 Atala Sadiq, who's 6th in the Porsche Cup category right now. Yeah, Brou has some work to do. Was quicker by 3/10 over Sam Scott, but I suggest that Sam Scott was probably working through the traffic that he's got to deal with this lap, and it doesn't look like it's going that great.
Yeah, from what I've been seeing, it looks like Brew is the faster car. Just hasn't really been able to get to Scott yet.
So, checking back in with our Porsche Cup leaders, Paul Darling. He's been consistently quicker than DJ Alessandrini. He just can't keep that consistency up quite enough to get by DJ. He keeps hounding him 6/10, 3/10, 2/10 back, and then gets stuck. Ooh, it almost looked like he was heading to pit lane, swung out way wide.
It's really interesting seeing how you visually see by the way these guys have been taking their corners, their cars are set up in two completely different ways.
Set up very differently, and you can see how they're just driving very so differently. That final corner, Alessandrini kind of arced it in, and Darling kind of took a double apex approach. So it's so interesting to watch these guys. They're both extremely fast, but they do it in very different ways. Into Maggots and Beckett's yet again. Darling chasing Alessandrini, being very aggressive over the curves through there. You can cut those pretty hard. There's some, I don't know what you want to call it, AstroTurf, rumble strip, something or other on the apex of the right-hander.
Isn't it kind of like concrete and grass?
Yeah, it's like a concrete lattice almost. So it sounds and reacts like a rumble strip, but it's more kind of like runoff. It's basically a no-no zone, but everyone, well, says that you can drive on it, let's use it.
Has some amount of grip, might as well use it.
If it's anything other than gravel and slick grass, then it's fair game to a lot of drivers. And a lot of times people will take grass if it's useful to use. That's kind of half grass, half concrete. Paul Darling is so close to getting by DJ here.
Yeah, he's been so close, but he's been close enough to catch him, just not close enough to like pass him. So I think that's really been the big deal for Darling. He just doesn't have the speed to get around Alessandrini. And I mean, Alessandrini's, I'm sure, fine with it, keeping this 155 in behind him.
What about the pit stops here? Their pace hasn't really slowed significantly. It's about 0.3 of a second, so I'm not sure if an undercut will work better or an overcut, but I guess we'll find out. Maybe they'll pit together and just try to beat each other on the stop sequence itself. Nose to tail, almost halfway through this race, and Darling is as close as he's been.
He had a little bit of a run down towards turn one, would have to do an absolute godsend down into turn one, probably taking out Alessandrini if you were to make that move. So
yeah, I'm wondering if DJ has a slightly higher downforce set.
Oh, speaking of the pits, Ken O'Steele, first driver to make it down.
Oh, interesting choice. So the 23 hits pit lane. And again, this is about halfway, so I'd expect a lot of drivers to come on down in the next couple laps. Split this race evenly in half.
Curious to see if he goes up on the jacks or not. I'm going to say probably not. Yep, it looks like the car's going to stay on the ground, just fuel only for the 23.
Interesting. That'll keep the tires. The tires will be warm enough to keep pace on the outlap. If you change to fresh tires, you might get some advantage of not having them so worn out, but you're going to be slow for the first 3 or 4 laps as those tires come up to temperature. So the pit road delta that time for House-Seal was 39 seconds from pit in to pit out. And I wonder if Darling can spook DJ and just dive for pit lane without him knowing, or without him having time to react.
Now, after this year, I think it definitely would be in Darling's advantage to get some clean track ahead of him. Because he's got Alessandrini in front of him, can't make much forward progress with the 61 in front of him, so if he has a clear check, that should give him a shot, taking the lead away.
Alessandrini all over the front bumper of Darling. Darling's going to swing out way wide. Does anybody hit pit lane this time? Entrance is off the driver's right. They will both stay on course this time. Then you're watching the battle for the lead in Porsche Cup. It's DJ Alessandrini in the orange and teal car, and Paul Darling in the yellow and black. Great run for Darling here. Alessandrini's out in the dirt. And
that could have been it.
Change of position. Now, I wonder, oh, that's going to get real dicey.
Could fantastic pass by Paul Darling. Oh, still not done yet. Alison Jr. looked like he was going to do a move and Beckett.
That was a little clumsy there, and it almost looked like when he ran out wide, like he almost gave Darling the lane, and I wonder if there is some strategy involved in this, maybe so DJ can pit before Paul Darling. I'm not really sure if that's what he was thinking, but when he went out wide, I was expecting him to get back on the racing line. It looks like he stayed out left.
I think his reasoning was I don't think he wanted to be turning while he got onto the grass. I think they would have potentially pitched the car around. I think that's what he could have been afraid of.
Yeah, that could be. It's very slippery on corner exit there. Because what I really like about the off tracks in some corners here at Silverstone, unlike a lot of tracks that just pave it and call it, like this corner we're going through right now, they have a grass strip that's really AstroTurf, I believe. It actually might be real grass, some of it.
Well, in turn one, I think the thing he was right. There is a thin strip of grass before the AstroTurf, and if you flip that at a wrong angle, that can send your car spinning around. It's happened to me a few times.
But it's a fairly good deterrent to keep people staying on the course. And look at the different lines through this final sector as Darling swings in way wide. You see right behind these guys is the leader in GT3.
Something interesting is here. We see these guys may duck to the pits just so they have to avoid getting passed by the GT3 car, slowing them down. Any takers this time by? Nope, they will both stay out again.
And that's now Sam Scott's got to work on it. If I was Sam Scott, I probably would have come this time just to avoid having to pass these cars, but maybe he'll make it. He's not really losing time to Brew, so I don't really think there's any particular rush.
Sam's trying to get a line on Alison Jr. through Maggots and Beckett's. Not going to work. Whoa, he has to back way off.
Alessandrini.
Brew has got clear track ahead of him.
Yeah. Alessandrini got really aggressive on the curbs through Maggots and Beckett's, but it was kind of an awkward sector.
And should be able to get at least Alessandrini. I think he's way too far back.
The Porsche Cup cars are pretty quick on the straights here, and they're pretty even. But the brakes are going to be far better on the 98. He'll be able to clear DJ. This is going to let Sam Scott have a bit of a lead here, though. I'm Scott. I'm loving this because that held up DJ, and now I can hit. Or that was Paul Darling. I love this because DJ got held up in that whole process. It has a bit more options now when it comes to pitting. This is not great for Sam Scott. He's lost almost 2 seconds battling these cars. He's going to swing around the outside and get the spot finally.
He's charging into the corner, going to dive. Wow, great move to the inside.
Oh, he's there, but again, this sector is where Darling is so much better. And Darling will leave the space.
This corner, I think, is where Alessandrini's going to get cut off guard. It's a long, sweeping right. Very slow.
Tried to get the late apex there, but Darling shut that down. And back onto the straight. Francois Brew right behind these guys, and he's charging, trying to catch Sam Scott for that lead. Only car to come to pit lane so far is Ken Hauseal.
Yeah, I'm honestly quite surprised we haven't seen anyone else come down. So if I'm not mistaken, how much time do we have? We have under 30 minutes.
28 minutes left in this race, so we're past halfway now. I think the reason why they're staying out is because they're planning on not taking tires. They want to stay on pit lane for as little as possible, which means refueling as little as possible. So that means staying out later in the race.
Francois Bou, he's going to work through some traffic now.
Yeah, the straightaway speed difference between these cars is not massive, maybe 5 miles an hour, and DJ actually goes defensive, knowing that the difference isn't that much. And he's going to actually force Brew to stay behind him through here.
I noticed that DJ Alessandrini is essentially the Ryan Newman
of
sports car racing.
Well, he knows where it's safe for the GT3 cars to pass and where it's not. He's going to make it very obvious as to what his opinion on that matter is. And that has kept them from getting into a dangerous situation, but it also tends to make that driver a little bit more impatient. You see him crossing over, trying to block him again, and that's only going to irritate. I mean, again, he's in his own race. He doesn't have to heed this position. The only thing he's not allowed to do is change his line in an unpredictable manner in response to the trailing car, which I feel like he's done a little bit here. And now a crossover.
I think he's going to throw it up the inside.
Yep, and I think DJ will have to heat it now. No changes in GT3. You've missed nothing. Thomas Layton in Porsche Cup has hit pit lane. So now we got a little bit of breathing room in Porsche Cup. Let's head back up to third in class in GT3. It's Louis Alessi and Mark Labens, and Labens has Been running pretty favorable lap times, although Lewis Alessi just ran only 0.2 off his best time that last lap through. So Alessi's doing a good job being defensive. And again, we thought he'd drop backwards with that low downforce set in that BMW, but he's held on to third pretty well.
For lappers, he's come on down to the pits.
So that would be third in Porsche Cup. Be the third taker tonight. No drivers from GT3 yet. 25 minutes to go.
Trying to look at what's going on around the track. A lot of guys spread out on different strategies at the moment.
Yeah, kind of waiting to see how this is going to play out here, and just waiting for Labens. Oh, Lewis Alessi almost ran off course again. Here's a look at that.
He's been really flirting with that grass.
Way
He's
off,
been able to avoid it.
way off the edge of the course. Just got back on. Looks like the exit of the carousel at Watkins Glen, the line he's taken. Labens is closing though for sure. Got that gap down to less than half a second.
Some battle for third overall, as well as third in class.
Alessandrini's times have slipped. He's now at a second behind Paul Darling. And for as much as he adores this car, I think it definitely seems to have equalized the other drivers a little bit, or at least benefited Paul Darling quite a bit.
Yeah, well, last lap through, Alessandrini was faster by 0.2, but not really enough. He's gonna have to take some bigger chunks, and I'm curious to see over the long run how it's gonna look in 3-5 laps time.
Yeah, we never really got a fair shot to see how good Paul Darling would be at Road America because he had an issue so early in the race.
Yeah.
So I think he's really showing what he's capable of here tonight. Oh, behind Alessandrini, right in front of Lewis Alessi. That got real close.
Trying to kind of run Alessandrini.
Yeah, Alessandrini about a car width away from the left-hand side of the track, making... Oh, he's out wide!
Oh, DJ's out!
Oh, he's going to hang on to it, but he's going to be way out in the runoff room, and that will be what catches him. But drove in a bit deep, and that's... Oh, here comes... Uh-oh. All sorts of chaos right now around the 61. Let's go back and take a look at how wide he went here. Just drives in too deep.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm wondering if he just got spooked out or maybe distracted by Lewis Alessi, and that's what led to him going off wide. But great save. He's run up to his advantage.
Yeah, that's a slide that not a lot of people could save in this car. It's pretty challenging over the limit, and he managed to hang on, but he did lose quite a few seconds to Paul Darling. He's now 4 seconds back. As Darling deals now with Lewis Alessi, but I think he's just going to let him go. And right behind is Mark Labens in the 14, who's lost some ground to the 43. No other takers to pit lane just yet, and no one from GT3 has made their stop.
And we're getting to the later stages of this race, and still no sign of a pit stop. So these guys, I think, just want as little fuel as possible, and the tank can be lighter is faster.
Lex Kuracek just hit pit lane from 7th in class. Dennis Barrett drove on by in the 83. He picks up 6th.
David Alessi is down into the pits, one of the first GT3 cars to do so.
Yeah, Alessi's night has not gone the way he wanted it to.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because I think he easily could have won this race had he not made those few mistakes that put him back. Because he definitely has the paces, doesn't have the consistency.
He still could have won after that first mistake he made, but it was really the second one that sealed his fate there. So meanwhile, in Porsche Cup, I'm curious to see what the lap times are this time by for Alessandrini and Darling, because DJ seems to drive pretty well under pressure, and I wouldn't be surprised if he immediately picks up some amazing pace here. I wouldn't be surprised if he runs his best lap trying to chase Paul Darling now. Second is not a position that DJ spends a lot of time in.
Yep, and he's gonna have to try to change it. He's got some work to do. And some more GT3s are coming to the pit, so I gotta imagine they're getting to the end of how long they can go on fuel.
Yeah, about 40 minutes seems about right for these cars, and we've gone for about 39 so far, 21 minutes remaining.
Sam Scott, leader, coming in.
So Scott pulls into the box. We'll see if Francois Brou, no, he's going to stay out this time. And Lewis Alessi, looks like he's also going to stay out.
Yeah, I think Bruce is going to make the car as light as possible to try to get any sort of advantage he can on Scott. He's got some pace in that car to catch him. Just needs to be a lot closer.
Sly Stafford, the lone Ferrari left in this race now that Charles Boley is retired. And running in 5th in class. Although his best lap time is really only about a couple tenths off. But it is one of the slower best lap times of everyone out there. So that Ferrari doesn't seem like it's really the car of choice here tonight. Oh, Sam Scott was in pit lane for a long time. 16 seconds. That might be right. David Alessi was down here for 18, so that could be. Dennis Barrett's now down on pit lane for his stop. 20 minutes to go here at Silverstone. Alessandrini is in and out. So now when does Paul Darling hit pit road? You'd have to imagine he'd respond to DJ.
I think, honestly, if anything, I think he should just hit, if anyone's potentially passing him or if he's going to catch some lap traffic. Got Calvin Wong up ahead.
Not a lot of traffic, though, so I wouldn't be surprised if he stays out here. Relatively clean track. I guess we'll see where he fares or where he... Oh, man. The swing back to driver's left to get that apex into the final sector. We'll see if he comes down to respond to Alessandrini. Now, DJ spent 39 seconds on pit lane. 16.1 of those seconds were in the box. I would imagine Darling's going to hit pit lane. No, he's going to... yes, here he comes.
Whoa!
Just in time. You see Mark Lavins up the road in GT3 has come in. Pit limiter on for the 155. This is going to be tight where he comes out relative to DJ. And he'll get an eyeball on Alessandrini, currently working through the last sector.
I don't think it'll be a lot closer. I'll be surprised if he did gain a lot of time back.
Well, Darling is already leaving, so Alessandrini's still working through the final corner. Now he's on the front straight. Yeah, Darling should have this fairly easily, actually. And he spent 3 seconds less on pit lane as well, so this will be a quite sizable lead. 8.6 as he leaves pit lane. It'll probably dwindle to about 5, maybe 4, but it was still an overall gain for Paul Darling.
Yeah.
18 minutes to go, 6 seconds for DJ to make up. Meanwhile, in GT3, Sam Scott now third. The front two have not yet hit pit lane. I'd have to imagine they got to come soon.
And here comes Francois Brew out of the final corner. Indeed, he's going to come in.
A very, very conservative entry here. I'm not sure if he knows where the pit lane actually starts. Really conservative entry. He's going to lose a bunch of time.
Oh, he actually sped.
Oh, did he?
I think he might have. He came in, he crossed the cones at around 49, 48 miles an hour.
He came in so slow. I mean, he didn't charge it or anything, so that'd be a real big burn if he got a speeding penalty for losing time. Travis Skeel on and off pit lane in his 151.
Yeah, that's the thing, too, as a driver.
Oh, Lex Kurchek around in turn 1, right in the racing line. See what happened to Kurchek. He's actually spun out once here already tonight.
Yeah, almost the same exact way. Just got loose on the inside curbs.
Yeah, some stability issues for him. So, with the pit stops pretty much cycled out, with the exception of Louis Alessi, he's the last driver other than David Atkinson to hit pit lane. Sam Scott will have the lead over Brew by 7.8 seconds as it stands right now. So, both our class leaders have pretty sizable leads.
Looks like he was able to avoid a penalty, but yeah, I'm really surprised on how you were saying this as well, and I agree with you. I'm surprised at how conservative he came into the pits. He could have charged a lot more, but yeah, I guess he wasn't aware of where the cones were.
Yeah, just unfamiliarity. Again, this is a circuit that not a lot of people have driven in some time, but again, even sometimes I forget the simple things, like the yellow cones are where the pit lane starts, and sometimes that memory even kind of lapses a little bit. You're not really sure where the pit lane starts, but it's the yellow cones is where pit lane speed starts, and the green cones is where pit lane speed ends. And I guess that wasn't quite clear for Bruce, so it wasn't able to maximize that pit entry. Sam Scott has led every lap other than the ones that we've just done under the pit stop sequence. Now closing in to get by Calvin Wong for a second time. Put him 2 laps down. So there's Paul Darling. He is your Porsche Cup leader. DJ Alessandrini 6 seconds back. Lost 3 seconds in pit lane and another 3 on the mistakes compounding before the pit stops. And Ken Hauseal almost 11 seconds back from that. Luis Alessi has hit pit lane in his BMW.
Yeah, let's see if this benefits him. No, actually, yeah, he's way... I didn't realize I just saw Francois Brou come on by, so he's going to be way behind. I thought he was closer.
15 minutes left here at Silverstone Circuit. And for the Washington, D.C. region SCCA iRacing League, the penultimate round. Again, no points involved in this race, so just for fun tonight. And drivers getting to experience cars that are much higher power and higher torque and higher downforce than the ones they race usually on Wednesday night. David Alessi up back into 4th in class after his pit stop, so he played the strategy quite well, and for how bad this night started in the first half of the race, he's going to be okay, and he's actually looking for 3rd now.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a pretty good recovery. You're going to look at a podium here. He's going to look to the inside of Stowe, and Lewis Alessi is going to give him the room, but David Alessi can't make the move.
They were fighting earlier, and it was the battle here that put David Alessi back towards the tail of the field again. We'll see if this time he can get it done a little bit cleaner. I love the guttural whoosh that Mercedes has when it goes by. It's got such a great sound to it. .14.5 minutes left to go. Lap 27 of an estimated 37, so it should be about 10 laps left. Oh, Luis Alessi way out wide over the edge of the curb, and David's going to slide up the inside here and probably take the spot, and he will have it. Over the curbs aggressively, takes 3rd place away.
I think he's a little bit too far back from Francois Brou to catch him, but, I mean, you never know.
DJ Alessandrini is continuing to lose time. 7.3 back from Paul Darling. Not something you typically see a lot. Calvin Wong, I believe, has just gone for a slide. Let's take a look. Was trying to get out of the way of, I believe that is the 719 of Sly Stafford. Didn't actually go off track, just got off way out to driver's right. No close battles on the racetrack right now. Everyone's relatively spread out here. Travis Skeel in the 151 is about 2 seconds back from Kuracek, but I don't think he's running any faster than the 6 car.
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem to be that way at all.
We'll keep an eye on their lap times as they come on by this time to see if they're improved at all. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. will be the conclusion. Is it the last race of the season tomorrow for Fuel?
For Fuel?
Yeah.
Yep, should be.
So the final race of the Fuel IndyCar Series season, they roll off from, I believe it's Homestead Miami Speedway tomorrow night.
Yeah, let me double check that. Should be that.
Yeah, I think it's Auto Club for Indy Elite and Homestead for Fuel.
Yep.
So that'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern. And then Friday we have a special event that'll be Indy Cars from Gateway. It'll be at 7:30 p.m. And then Saturday will be the Outsider Racing League regular season finale before we head off to their chase in the week following. Then Sunday, I think we got one more 3-wide event. We're done for 2019, and then also the Indy Elite Series finale.
Yeah, a lot of IndyCar stuff, actually, I just realized over the next few days, because you got Thursday, Friday, Sunday, or Monday, one of the two.
Yeah, I think it's Sunday. Well, it'll be 2 on Sunday if that is the case.
It's a lot of IndyCar.
Yeah, a lot of IndyCar. But we're pretty much wrapping up most seasons of things, which is kind of a good thing because I'm getting burned out right now in the fall here, so I could use a little bit of a break. We'll still have ORL going. Let's see what else. Indy Elite is going to be over. Fuel Indy is going to be over. So what do we have? We're going to have Saturdays. And
it's just Saturdays.
And that's
for
it.
the next 3 weeks. After next week.
Grid
3
Life.
weeks is just Outsiders. And Grid Life.
Grid Life and Elite Modified will be on Tuesdays as well. So we'll still have a 2-race Tuesday, and then Saturday for a couple weeks. But everything else is off, and I'm thankful for that.
From the 22nd all the way to the 3rd, we only have 2 races.
Really?
Yeah, we're on a long break for the most part.
Cool. I like doing it, but it's been kind of we haven't had a full week off since.
No, yeah, we've been going hard.
Since
falls are
basically
our busy
summer.
season.
Probably early summer would be. It's been very consistent streaming on our end.
Yeah, fall's I think a little bit worse for us in the spring. There's some less scheduling conflicts also as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to just getting rid of the scheduling conflicts, especially. We actually had someone reach out to us about Tuesday nights, and I almost laughed. I go, oh my god, no, not another Tuesday night. We already got three things going on, and I'm really looking to whittle that down back to one.
Yeah, not to flex, but we do get quite a few offers.
Hike the prices yet again.
Honestly, it's to a point, like, if we accepted every single person that asked, we would have, like, 25 series under our belt. It's not even exaggerating.
It's one of those things where, like, you know, we'd love to do more, except we just need other teams to do it. The problem with that is that there's not enough profit margin in this business to be able to pay 2 other full-time people and still make anything on that race ourselves. So it's kind of a no-go in terms of hiring more groups. And honestly, a lot of people, they're not paying for the overlays, they're paying for us. So, you know, that's another hard sell. People don't want to people don't want to have the B team.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Which we always we split ourselves up when we have 2 events, but beyond that, it's pretty much impossible because there will be no one originally left from SimTV. But we are looking for a full-time employee for the next, in the next 5 or 6 months to kind of take over the reins from Finian at some point. And I'd like to get out of here eventually too. I mean, I love doing this, but I can't do it forever. And I think at some point we'll probably have a look-see at getting ourselves replaced. Still running the channel, but less on the commentary side. Maybe 1 or 2 streams a week instead of 7. Under 10 minutes to go now, and Darling continues to lead by 12.5 seconds over DJ Alessandrini, who's dropped off a cliff. And Sam Scott leads Francois Brou by 8 seconds over the 69 car.
Yeah, not a whole lot of close action going on.
No, really everyone's... I think the closest battle is somewhere by about 4 seconds. So nothing being missed right now.
Could have been Fuel, the Cup Series race at Phoenix.
Ouch.
Really hate the package. It was no fault of the driver, just the package is awful.
Alright, so I actually just got a notification while we're kind of waiting for something to spice up here.
Is it another offer?
No. I think 3Wide was actually looking at running a Pro 2 series.
Oh, yes, that's what Levi sent me that as well.
So Pro 2 trucks at all sorts of different tracks. I said that'd be kind of fun, and it's at times where we normally be streaming them, but we're not going to be doing that, so... What? You sound confused.
No, okay. I didn't realize what car it was, because I saw Volusia, and then I saw Belle Isle, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, what runs on both of those?
The LMP1s, Finian. What are you talking about?
Yeah, other than that didn't really come to mind. I was like, interesting, are we doing different cars, or what?
Yeah. Now, Pro 2 is kind of one size fits all, usually. That's one thing that I'm kind of looking forward to once we can kind of slim the scheduling down a little bit, is actually getting to race a little bit. and not necessarily just, in the league sector. I want to go back to racing official stuff, but it's just hard to do with all the stuff we've got on our plate. Racing official, when you race in a league, you kind of know who your competition is. There's something a little bit exciting about the official side and not knowing who it is, because you're never really sure where you're going to stack up, which sometimes is great, sometimes it's a horrible thing, but looking forward to getting back in the Mustang, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know, for me it's the opposite, but, everyone is on iRacing pretty much for different things.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with league racing. I think it's obviously sustains this quite well. I think people generally trend towards league racing. Just because you know who your competition is, there's set rules, that there's a community based around it. There's a lot of advantages to it, but there's something about, there's no feeling quite like getting in an official session and whipping all the Europeans' butts at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. So hopefully you can get back into that.
So very specific.
Got to beat the four-namers, Finian. You got to beat the four-namers. Should have seen the Grid Life iRacers race last night. They had 55 Mustangs at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. I wish I was there for it.
Yeah, would have been went about as well as you would expect.
That means your computer didn't crash. Although I guess the Mustang isn't that intensive.
No, I turned off the in-car mirrors and actually still haven't turned them back on.
Oh.
But I didn't have any issues at all. Actually, it didn't even lag a little bit.
I was gonna say it was probably the 911 or something newer. I think or it was the V8 Supercross.
It's not even cars like that. It's the NASCAR cars are the worst.
Really?
Yeah, stock cars are by far the most intensive stuff on my system. I have no idea why. I mean, it could be GT3s, GTE, doesn't matter. If it's stock cars, it kills me. And I don't have any issues with like the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit or Barcelona. Like I have no performance issues there. It's just like cup cars at like Atlanta, like brings my system to its knees, and I have no idea why. 5 minutes left in the race here, 5 minutes and 40 to be exact. Alessandrini continues to drop off time. Darling's only gotten quicker as the run's gone on.
Yeah, it's not what Alessandrini wanted. I think that big mistake. I mean, even when he was second behind, Darling definitely had a shot, but that slide off of Stowe pretty much killed most of his shot of winning was.
This will be about 4 laps to go this time by for Paul Darling. Sam Scott comes on through. Francois Brou has got that lead up to, well, 7 seconds. It hasn't really closed any. High above Silverstone Circuit. And again, the new circuit is, I think it flows a lot better. It seems to make a lot more sense logically to me. But the old one, I mean, this layout in particular, I don't hate. At least not quite as much as I hate the normal Grand Prix circuit. I'm glad they bulldozed it, is what I'm saying.
I mean, they really didn't bulldoze that much of it, too. That's the funny thing. A lot of it does remain the same.
They bulldozed the bad parts.
I will say, though, I don't really like the first sector that much at the new track. It's a little too slow.
I don't mind it. I think the hairpin that the left-hand hairpin that's really super tight. I can never quite get to the apex there. But it's a fairly challenging corner, and I don't hate it for what it is. I just hate that I suck at it. And also the way the track is laid out dimensionally just makes, like, where the pit lane is, and it just flows a lot more naturally than this version ever did, which makes it more fun to drive in faster cars especially. I don't really care for it in slower cars because it's so wide open that it's really not that much fun than anything slower than like a GT3. 3 minutes and 35 seconds left, and no one has managed to close in on any of the leaders. And the closest battle on the racetrack is now a mere 6.9 seconds between DJ Alessandrini and Ken House-Seal for second in Porsche Cup.
Now Ken, too, he's come back from quite a bit after having some problems early on in the race. He's also another one, kind of almost like David Lessie. You know, if he didn't have those issues and those mistakes, he could have been up there fighting with Alessandrini and even Paul Darling.
Yeah, it's been quite an adventure for him tonight. I'm sure he would have liked it to be a bit less of an adventure. Although I don't think his pace is quite on what Darling's and Alessandrini's has been. His best time is only a 44.0. Darling's is a 43.4, and DJ's is a 43.6. So he's about almost half a second off in terms of best lap time around here. Two minutes 40 left. And next time by for leader Sam Scott, it will be 2 laps to go. Haven't had any major dramas in a while. And we actually haven't really seen a whole lot of class interaction yet either. Everyone's kind of found their own space, so that as we say that, Sam Scott does close in on 4th place Thomas Layton in Porsche Cup.
And he's starting to put some of these guys a second lap down on the Porsche field.
So Scott's going to take a look down to the inside into Stowe, and will easily have the spot. Porsche Cup cars have notoriously poor brakes, or at least you have to balance them kind of on the rears quite a bit because of how much weight is back there, and if you lock up the rears, you're going to go for a spin. Locking up the fronts isn't so bad, you just end up dragging the car off track.
Yeah, you can't stop on them like you can in the GT3 cars with ABS. You got to really manage them, and that's what makes it a very very skill required car to drive.
You know what's interesting about the GT3s is there doesn't seem to be a huge difference between smashing the pedal all the way to the floor and just using the ABS and threshold braking. It seems like the ABS is pretty well optimized for these cars, which is nice, because I think a lot of drivers will say, oh, I hate ABS and whatnot, because in older cars it was kind of intrusive, but it's not so much on these cars. What is intrusive sometimes is the traction control on the GT3s, and the GTEs especially. It's really annoying when you're trying to power slide out through a slip and you can't get the power of the rear wheels to spin those tires and you end up crashing because of it. That is really frustrating. So Sam Scott just came on through. I think that was turn 1, was it not? So this should be white flag. This will be white flag. Sam Scott comes on through in the 98 car to pick up that last lap. He's 8.2 seconds ahead of Francois Brou. In Porsche Cup, it's Paul Darling by 15.5 seconds over DJ Alessandrini.
Yeah, and he's still yet to take the white flag, coming through the back part of the course now. He can kind of relax a little bit now. I think Alessandrini's a little bit too far back to do anything. He can kind of just relax and make sure he gets to his last lap in one piece.
Sam Scott has led a bunch of laps tonight, almost very close to all of them, with the exception of the ones that were traded under the green flag pit stop sequence. And he's heading through the far side of the course now, gearing up for his first race win of the season. It's been a while since we've seen Sam Scott be in victory lane after the struggles that he had in the Spec MX-5 Sim Racing Challenge this season, as well as the Washington, D.C. region SCCA. Just hasn't had the luck, but tonight, no luck needed. It was all skill that's going to get this one done. No mistakes tonight by the 98. Flawless race from green flag to checkered.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest factors determining it. A lot of guys made some mistakes. We saw, David Alessi, one of the fastest guys in the class, made too many mistakes, wasn't able to catch back up with his pace, but meanwhile, Sam Scott kept it clean and green.
Through the final corner, drags the tire off and almost throws it away there in the last moments, but Sam Scott wins at Silverstone. Francois Brou, early in the season, had some good runs in the TCR car. And tonight, it'll be a great second place run in GT3. David Alessi, 12 seconds back. But he's going to come on through, and after all the trials and tribulations for him, comes home third after starting on the front rows. That's a great, great rebound for the 34. Louis Alessi, perhaps driving a car that doesn't have all the advantages of the Mercedes in front. He rolls on through it for fourth. Sly Stafford, a top 5 for the 719, is due. And going to rotate through the final corner. He'll pick up 5th spot.
Yeah, looking back, Paul Darling, he's coming to the final sector of the track. And well, job done by him, arguably the fastest car in this class. Waited for Alessandrini to make a mistake, took advantage of it, and never looked back. Yeah,
he just outdrove Alessandrini tonight, which is not something we've seen. I can't even remember the last time that Alessandrini just got flat out beat like this in this series. So Darling going to come on through the final corner. He's going to pick up a race victory, and it wasn't easy, but he got it done. Paul Darling wins in Porsche Cup. And for DJ, hey, second ain't bad. I don't think he'll be satisfied with that.
I think for him, if he ain't first, you're last in class.
It looks like Ken Houseel will be one of the final drivers to come on through as he enters the final sector. We'll take a look at, as Houseel makes his way back to the start-finish line, here's a look at your race results. Of course, it was Sam Scott, Brou, Alessi, and Stafford, your top 5. And then moving on back to your Porsche Cup field, it was Paul Darling that got it done. Again, a winner in the SCCA SRF series that ran earlier in the summer. Beats DJ Alessandrini by 15.5 seconds to get his first win in the Porsche Cup car this season. The rest of the field scrolling on through. We'll be back in just a moment for interviews. Stay with us. Welcome back live to Sim TV in the Washington, D.C. region SCCA iRacing League. Here now with our second place GT3 finisher, Francois Brou. Francois, a solid race tonight, just didn't quite have the pace to go catch Sam Scott. What'd you need to go beat that 98 car?
I need to pass the guys, the Porsches. I lost so much time behind them. I didn't know how to pass it, so a lot of confusion. I was at best 4 3 4 seconds to him, and then in one lap I lost 4 5 seconds. I was keeping up pace with him, but I lost too many times. And at the beginning, I lost 4 seconds behind Luis Alessi, and after that I didn't have the pace to consistently doing it. At the end I did 5 or 6 laps really really good, and I started catching up, but no, not enough.
This racetrack, pretty fast and flowing. You chose the Mercedes GT3, which is pretty big and heavy. What were the advantages of this car, and why did you choose this car over the Ferrari, or the BMW, or the Audi?
I tried the Audi first, but I have countless of hours on the Mercedes. I've done all my endurance races with the Mercedes. It's really well tricked up for my driving style. So I was feeling safe. Actually, I didn't do any off. I have completely clean record, no off. I was super clean, consistent. So it's based on consistency. I could clock lap time in the low 39 if I wanted to. I did 2 or 3 hours yesterday. I was consistently in the high 38 and low 39. It's just the traffic. I'm not good enough for keeping a pace fast with traffic included. So good job to Sam. He managed to do better.
All right, Francois Brou, second tonight in the number 69. Thanks for talking. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, guys.
Absolutely. Moving on now to Sam Scott, who got it done tonight in the 98. Sam, it's your first win this season in this series, and you got it done in spectacular fashion, an 8.7-second lead. You looked like you had this place figured out. Talk to us about your night tonight.
Yeah, it was a pretty good race. I actually found myself enjoying this track a lot more than I expected to, which was pretty awesome. It was a shame to see Dave spin out at the beginning. I think we would have had a good battle, and Francois too. Looked like I might have had a little more luck in traffic than him, but it's a good race all around.
What about
fun racing through traffic?
Yeah, I was going to ask you just about the traffic there. How bad was it for you to get through? Because we know Francois Brou was a little bit frustrated with how that went for him. How was it for you? And do you think there was appropriate respect given out there by the slower class cars?
Yeah, I think the respect was pretty good. It was a lot more of a challenge than expected to get around the Porsches. I mean, the speed difference in the corners is huge, but it's more difficult to get around them than that, even despite the speed difference. There's only a few places you can actually pass on this track.
Hey, we want to wish you congratulations. A job well done tonight. You led almost all the laps tonight, other than the ones during the pit stop sequence. So congratulations, enjoy it, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. We're going to move on now to our second place finisher in Porsche Cup. It's DJ Alessandrini. DJ, you got beat tonight, straight up. How was that out there fighting Paul, and how did he beat you?
It didn't feel good, but I learned a lot about the car, so that's a good thing. Paul's been working all week developing a setup for the car for an endurance race he has this weekend, and I I wanted to learn a bunch from this race for the I'm doing a 3.5 hour solo endurance race on VIR next weekend. So I'm just siphoning off information from Paul because in the beginning of the race, one might say I was even faster than Paul. And then at some point during the race, it became very obvious that he was putting down power a lot better than I was. And I was just trying to stay in his way as long as possible. And eventually he just got enough of a run off of a corner. And yeah, I was throwing the car so hard into corners just because I knew I wasn't going to beat Paul on exit just from watching him, and went wide one time, and I just watched Paul disappear.
How was the tire wear tonight? Because I know the big discussion was this car being on the new tire model V7. Were you thinking about changing tires on that pit stop? Did you change tires, and what was the reason behind why you did or didn't?
No, I mean, I was running 43s in the beginning of the race, and then it just dropped to low 44s, and then like mid 44s. But Paul was just doing 43s, low 44s the entire race, just bam, 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 bam. There was no way with my 20 minutes or whatever to go in the race that I was going to justify a 20, 30 second tire change. there wasn't enough laps, and I wasn't going to be going 2 seconds a lap faster with new rubber. So it just wasn't worth it. But like I said, grateful for Paul for figuring out a bunch of stuff on the car and sharing it with me and Ken, because we're both doing that race. So any kind of information that you can get is good. So it's always nice if you lose and learn a bunch of stuff. It stinks when you lose and don't learn anything and end up scratching your head. So thanks to Paul for doling out a ton of information about the car and these new tires that we got to figure out.
All right, DJ Alessandrini, second in class tonight. DJ, thanks for talking. We'll see you next time.
All right, thanks, guys.
Sure thing. Moving on now to Paul Darling. Paul, you beat DJ, and that's pretty hard to do. How'd you do it tonight?
I've been so I've got a pretty big league race this weekend, so I've been putting a lot of time in this car trying to figure out the V7 tires. So I think this one came down to setup. I know me and DJ are usually pretty close. Usually he gets the better of me, but this time I think I had the setup advantage on him, and the tire wear just I was able to have the better pace over the whole run.
Tonight, there was not an enormous car count. This is a fairly large track, but how was the GT3 traffic, and do you think that was navigated properly this time compared to tracks like Road America?
I'd say, I think everyone still has some stuff to learn with multi-class, but I think it was better than what I saw at Road America, at least. But then again, I crashed out of Road America, so let's not bring that one up.
Hey, Paul, we want to wish you congratulations. Beating DJ is no easy task. He's one. I always tell Finian that I other than the Grid Life, the Stadium Super Trucks, and I think the most recent MX-5 Challenge stuff that they did, DJ's won every single championship on this network, so beating DJ is no easy task. So congratulations. Enjoy this one. We'll see you back here next week.
Yep. Thank you very much, guys.
All right, we'll see you later. That's going to finish up the interviews for tonight. One last look through your finishing order here, Finian. Your thoughts on what wasn't exactly a nail-biter, but still a good, solid GT3 race for those involved.
Yeah, no, the first time was actually pretty action-packed amongst the class, with a lot of guys changing positions, a lot of guys catching, and quite a few guys making mistakes. So pretty entertaining overall. The second half, I think went into your typical endurance race, everyone getting spread out, because obviously you're going over the hour without any kind of break in between. So naturally everyone gets spread out. So that's what you expect. But yeah, it was a fairly solid race overall.
That's going to do it for us tonight. We're going to see you back here tomorrow at 9 p.m. for the Fuel IndyCar Series. Make sure you're there at 9 o'clock. We'll see you there. Have a good night.